first thing you need is some mincemeat. What else do you need? Now this is optional, but if your dad brings you pre-made meatballs or meat sauce, you can actually use this because we're gonna make a huge batch. So make sure it's the meatballs that you get from your dad when you're a 30-year-old woman and you're too poor to buy your own food. Don't use the meatballs if you're like Italian and it's exciting and it's gonna be awesome and your parents decided to drop by, because it's gonna taste differently. It's a different recipe altogether. So you want the poor guy meatballs. Next, the rest of your ingredients: oregano, fresh or dried, hot sauce. So this is cayenne pepper, garlic salt, 1 can of tomato paste should do, diced. Oh damn. Is this, what the fuck? These are not tomatoes. Oh, diced tomatoes. And that's supposed to be more diced tomatoes. My god. Scallion, which I keep frozen because it dies before you use it, because you hardly use any scallion. So that's an advice to you, freeze it. And also, I have some frozen tomatoes. This is optional. You could just use the canned tomatoes and everything will be fine. So as you can tell, we're making a huge batch. Oh, you could put onions if you want, depending on how you're cooking the meat, but I prefer to stick with scallion. And also you need regular table salt, by the way. So I start with turning on the stove and getting the pot quite hot. And I just add a touch of oil. I'm getting salmonella all over my camera. But in the meantime, I removed all of the freezer burn parts. You just kind of, you can dig it out like that. It's okay. So that's the first step. Now that the pot is starting to heat up, I'm gonna just dump all of my meat in the pot. So right now I'm just breaking up the meat and I'm gonna leave it to start to cook on medium power. I'm gonna cover it because that's a lot of meat. It's gonna take a while. I'm actually gonna put it on 6. With this recipe you can use, oh, they don't care. You can use any kind of meat. We don't care. They don't care. What we're gonna do while the meat is cooking, we're gonna start and prep our tomato sauce. So you get yourself a big ass pot. Now, you don't have to make a portion like I make, but I want some to last for the week. Let's get started, shall we? First thing I like to do, chop up my scallion because it starts to get really mushy really fast when it comes out of the freezer. That's not the right knife. I like this knife. It's overkill. So I just cut it up in little pieces. Be safe. There's only the root that I throw out. This recipe is good for students because it's gonna last you like forever. So you put it in the pot. Next, you get your tomatoes. These are diced tomatoes. You could get crushed tomatoes. You could get any kind. Just try to get pieces of tomatoes instead of just the powder stuff. This is what I wanted. So you can see how I made the mistake. This is spicy red peppers, but I wanted the chili flavored tomatoes. So this is the one that I'm gonna put in. Oh, that smells so good. Oh gosh, I wish you could smell that. That's amazing. Diced tomatoes. I'm not sure now if I want to put this one in. We'll put this can in. It might be the straw that break the camel's back, so to speak, but it's gonna taste damn good anyway, so I don't really care. But maybe this one I shouldn't put in. This one's spiced with fine herbs. So for you, if you have the trouble with buying spices, like you don't have oregano, you don't have spicy crap at home, you can buy them pre-spiced. This is no salt, non-salted. This is diced with flavor business. This one tastes like chili. It's all tomato. And last but not least, you take off this sticker, you wash this guy, and you just throw him in. Should I try to cut it? I'll try to cut it. Oh, that cut way better than I thought it would. So, just big chunks of tomato. I think I only need one. Keep doing it for the next time. Throw that biatch in there. And that's it. Put the next one in the fridge. Put the next one in the fridge. Talking like my dad. Ugh. So this is what it looks like once you get it on the stove. You want this to thicken because it's a bit watery, as you can see here. And so what you do, and this is still, it's frozen. What you do, put the stove on 6 or 7 just to get the heat going, because this is a really big pot of food. And you wait until it starts to bubble up. That's when you add your spices and things like that. You're this, you're that, you're this, you're that. So let's see where we're at now. Oh, that's goddamn hot. Okay, so that's coming along pretty nicely. So again, the important thing is you want it to cook evenly without it burning. And so you mush, 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 and mix it, which is really difficult to do. See, it's already starting to get really cooked on the bottom, and it's raw on top. Next step, get the poor people meat. Oh god, it's orange. Oh my goodness. It's real poor people meat. I don't know if you can see. That's poor people color. We're gonna make it beautiful. So the first thing we're gonna do is, there are these giant meatballs in here. We're gonna smush them all out because my mouth I don't like it when I get all, I'm eating something and then I'm confused about stuff. What am I eating? I can't remember. So I'm just gonna smush everything. Gotta use my core on this one. I'm gonna have food for at least a month unless my hooligan person comes in and eats all of the leftovers. This is what it looks like. Now, you can add it to your pot of tomatoes because this meat is already cooked, so you don't really mind. And you see, I thought I was putting a lot of tomatoes, but look at how much meat is going to be in this recipe. So let's just dump that bad boy in there. Now that I've added the second batch of meat, the first batch of meat I should say, to the tomatoes, I think that I might need a bit more tomatoes because then I'm going to add the real meat to it. So we'll see how it goes, but I basically cook by instinct. This is how I cook, so there's no measure this thing out, be anal retentive about that. It's really just put it in, taste it. Does it taste good? No. What does it need? Let's add stuff. That's it. So let's take a look at this meat. This meat is almost ready to spice. Alright, I think that's a good, a nice shot for you guys to be able to see the portions that I'm putting in. So, we're starting off with oregano. So, I just like to sprinkle it all over the meat, one equal layer, all across the meat. Don't be afraid of oregano, the taste kind of disappears. Next, garlic salt. I only like to put a little bit of this because garlic salt really is very salty. And the reason why I mind that it's salty is because I'm going to add regular salt. So this again, just a pinch. Okay, maybe that's a bit more than a pinch, but just a pinch. I'm gonna add finally, well maybe not finally, this, it's not Montreal steak seasoning, it's actually cayenne pepper. But we didn't have a container for it and we bought it in a bag. So I like it really hot. That's a lot for someone who has a sensitive palate, apparently, I've been told. So you just want to lightly sprinkle it on. Next, I'm gonna actually add, because I'm gonna use this mincemeat for something else, I'm gonna add some soy sauce. So I like to use the light soy sauce. Just to add, again, that flavor, that salt, whatever. And I'm actually going to add spicy pepper medley, or you can actually add the Montreal steak seasoning, but the Montreal steak seasoning has salt in it, and I don't want to add too much salt to my recipe. So that's pretty much the base for your minced meat. Just mix it out. I find this is lightly spiced. Like, I could put more. I just not sure what I'm gonna do with the other half of the mincemeat that I'm gonna use. So I don't want it to taste too strongly one way or the other. But this is a baseline seasoning, I like to call it. To me, it's starting to look nicely browned, and yeah. As you can see, the tomatoes is starting to heat up, and the meat is dissipating a bit more. The frozen tomatoes still goddamn frozen, so I'm gonna shove that in the bottom. This is where I suggest you do your first taste test. So I just taste. Okay, it tastes like raw tomatoes, so it's not even cooked a little bit. And I'm gonna taste my meat. Okay, the meat is, yeah, that's good. This is really my technique for cooking mincemeat. I just chop the shit out of it. So now, once your spaghetti sauce, like your tomato sauce, starts to look like this, and your meat looks like this, time to do the dumping. Don't fall, please. Now, while doing this, please remember to stay safe. Wear the appropriate protection devices, also known as mitts, so that you don't burn yourself. Be very careful. Now I'm only gonna dump most of it, but not all of it. Without the liquid, preferably. Turn down the stove to medium heat, and that's where I like to add my tomato paste. You'll see it's really thick and really pasty. That's normal. To get the rest of your tomato paste out of your container, because there's going to be some left, fill it with water, take off the extra on the side, and pour it in your recipe. I think that's the only amount of water you'll add to your recipe. Now that everything's in there, mix everything in. Don't burn yourself. And I'm going to give it the old taste-a-roo. Oh god, yeah, okay. Now this is your spaghetti sauce. This is what it looks like. It should taste like cooked tomatoes. It should not taste like at the beginning where it tasted just like if you put crushed up tomatoes in it. So if it still tastes like raw tomatoes, you added your meat too soon. If it tastes like cooked tomatoes, then you add your meat, you mix it up, and then the fun part starts. You want to cut the acidity, add salt, add garlic, do whatever. So let's do it. So I'm just going to taste again. And I find that the tomatoey taste, it's very sharp. Like, it's very acidic, which it's normal. Tomatoes, when you cook it up and stuff like that, you get this acidic flavor. And what I want for my spaghetti sauce is for it to taste more smooth, more uniform. So I'm going to cut that acidity with sugar, and I'm going to add a little bit of salt to get just all of the flavors locked in together. So just plain white sugar. I'm sure if you want to try to spice up your life, you can use other things. And table salt. So what I start with is salt. So I just lightly sprinkle, I mix, and I taste. And you'll see as you add the salt, if you add the salt, it's going to bring out the acidity of your tomatoes. And that's my whole point of getting the sugar ready to go in here. Now, my sugar is fairly old. I have like little cubes in here. I'm gonna just, I don't know how much that is, a pinch. It's very rare that you put too much sugar in it, but you can. So just put a little bit, mix, taste. Is that perfect? What? That's not normal. Tastes good. I don't know. It's suspicious to me. I think I'm not mixing it properly. Oh, and this whole time you're doing this with the fire on medium so that you're not burning anything. And yeah, basically you taste it until it's perfect for you. Last but definitely not least. Turn off your stove, let it cool off, and have some spaghetti. Little trick here. What I do with this container is I rinse it down, and then hey, free baking pan, and it rinses up pretty nicely actually. Life hacks for poor people, yeah.